The storm Isaac, where's Marshall? Marshall, you want to give us a briefing, please?
Thank you, gentlemen. Our last update was on 11 o'clock this morning, and as you can see, well, you'll be able to see in just a minute, the storm, after it come off of Cuba, was very disorganized. As you can see, it's going across the Florida Straits now, and it's becoming better organized. As you can see there too, it's a very large storm. The rain bands are getting close to Tampa. Really wouldn't surprise me if we started seeing some of the bands before daylight in the morning. But the good thing is the track has shifted more to the west. What has caused that is there is a high that was up over the Alabama area has shifted over more to the Georgia area. So what it's doing is it's tracking the storm more to the west. So that's good for us in that we won't be hopefully dealing with hurricane force winds. But as the track goes right now, we will still be dealing with some tropical storm force winds. If we could, David, put on her back and we'll look at some timing issues. Pretty much as far as decisions, we're pretty much run out of time. What's happened is the forecast, put those time, the days and the dates and times on there. I forget what the tab's called. So we can see where it's going to be when. And but as it shifts more to the west, then of course the likelihood of having sustained tropical storm force winds a decrease, but we will still be getting bands off of it. One of the biggest problems I see is it's going to be a tremendous amount of rain. Tomorrow we'll probably get a ½ to 1 inch of rain. By Tuesday we'll be getting 8 to 10 inches of rain. So Tuesday's going to be a very, very wet day. Another problem we're going to have with the rain is that we're saturated already, and flash flooding is going to be a problem. Maybe some roads going underwater. Another problem is that even if we don't get the tropical storm force winds, we're going to be getting gusts that'll be up tropical storm force, and I'm afraid that it's going to put a lot of trees down, limbs, which will tear down power lines. So we're going to be without a lot of the county may be without power, and something that we need to consider. Also, there still remains a tornado threat, as with any hurricane. The storm surge down at Indian Pass right now, they're saying it's going to be 4 to 7 feet up through the Cape itself, and then from the Cape on west to be 3 to 5 feet. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. People down in the Indian Pass area, as you were aware from storms in the past, is that we got a lot of water up the backside, and of course it floods roads, floods homes, and tears up the beach down there. So anybody in that area should definitely consider going ahead and evacuating that area and moving out, because it does get pretty bad down there. Another issue is compromise of the stump hole. We've been working, one's been working real close with the contractors down there and hauling in some additional protection, but still there's the chance of it being compromised. So anybody on the north side of the stump hole should really consider evacuation. If it is compromised there and you don't evacuate, then you could possibly be without emergency services or power for some time till we get it opened back up. Just something to consider. As far as time, and I guess there's a couple of things that we need to discuss, and that's what the board wants to do as far as evacuations. There's several groups that I'm looking at. Number one is the state park. They have protocol, and if they go under a tropical storm force warning, then they go ahead and evacuate, or if the board issues an order for them to evacuate, they can go ahead and evacuate. And with the high-profile vehicles, the slow-moving vehicles, they're actually the furthest distance out. That's one group I want to address. And then the other group would be the non-residents and really the residents. We're going to have to clump everything together now. So we're basically out of time. What neighbor, do you know what I'm talking about, the map? Put the map up there. Just hit map up at the top, right there. Yeah. Okay, now if you will, just walk that forward. You also need a box in there. I don't have the box. But anyway, as we walk forward, like we talked about yesterday, the circle around Gulf County is the decision arc. That's when we should make our final decisions and start moving people, if we're going to move them. That time has now been pushed up to 5 o'clock today. When we should have everybody out would be, by like noon tomorrow. And we really don't have time. What has happened is the storm has sped up, so instead of having more time in the end, it's starting to crunch us, and then, making the call to which way the storm was going and when we're going to actually call for an evacuation. My recommendation is that we go ahead and call for a voluntary evacuation of visitors and residents in the coastal areas, including the Peninsula, Cape San Blas, Indian Pass, and those areas to the water side of County and State Road 30A, and then to the water side of Highway 98. And do a voluntary evacuation based on the fact that these people understand that the Indian Pass area is going to be more critical to actually evacuate from down there, and it's going to be more critical to evacuate from the Cape simply because of the stump hole is compromised.
Let me go ahead and take that. What are the thoughts of the board? Number one, Marshall, what's the timing on the storm surge? Because I think that's the critical piece. Now, I think at the end of the day, the state park, as far as that's concerned, we can either do the evacuation for them either this afternoon or first thing in the morning, whatever they feel is the best to start that, and I think that needs to happen. As far as the other, and it's voluntary anyway, but I think the other needs to be as far as the timing of when we think the storm surge would be and how long it would take the number of people to get off. This isn't, fortunately, this is not July. Right. And we don't have as many people or many visitors on the Cape and in the Indian Pass area. But I think timing is critical as far as when that storm surge would be there.
I don't know. I was asking National Weather Service today to go ahead and work up the slosh model and timing. They're having a little bit of problem working the timing up in our area. Down in the Naples-Fort Myers area, it pushes it up against a flat surface. The problem with ours is it's pushing it up and it's wrapping it around Appalachia Bay. So I can't answer that right now. Okay. I really don't. I don't know. We can look at the timing of the tropical storm force winds, which tomorrow afternoon, 2 to 3 o'clock, they should start hitting the southern end of the county, based on the.
Mark, can you come up for a second? If it pleases the board, Commissioner, why don't we take the state park first with that individually? Mark, from a timing standpoint and the recommendations, I know Marshall spoke to me this morning regarding some of that. What do you need us to do? Because I agree with you, have a lot of visitors and large RVs and so I'm sure some of them intense and things. What would be most effective for you as far as timing?
We will follow the protocol of the county or the Weather Service, and upon issuance of an order from the county or an issuance of a tropical storm warning or a hurricane warning, we evacuate our overnight guests. With the tropical storm warning, we allow day use into the park as long as conditions are safe. If we actually experience tropical conditions, then we evacuate the day use visitors.
Well, based under Marshall's recommendation, I think we should do the overnight RVs immediately, and then let him determine. That's a good question. How many folks do you have currently?
We're about half full. I mean, a lot of them are leaving from the weekend, but they'll be starting to come in the morning, or they're scheduled to start to come in the morning for the holiday.
I think I spoke to Mark earlier today, went down there and talked to him a little bit, and I think he follows protocol, and I think protocol would be for us to do that for him. He's got some other things that he has to get in order, so, probably the evacuation orders, and it is appropriate for us to begin that. So I'll make the motion that we begin the evacuation, or recommend the evacuation of the state park.
Mandatory, sort of immediately. Is that how you want it?
I think timing is now.
Okay. We have a motion, Commissioner Yeager.
Second.
Have a second, Commissioner McDaniel. Any questions? Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, Marshall, let's go back to your voluntary of those low-lying areas.
And my concern is, getting all the slow-moving vehicles and the high-profile vehicles out of the way. And that's what we've always done. We always move the state park first. And then any visitors that are in with slow-moving, pulling boats, jet skis, stuff like that, we try to move them out. We're pushed up to the end right now, and we're even looking at, having people move at night, which we don't want to. We will have some time tomorrow, but what we're going to do is we're going to have the residents and the non-residents all getting on the road at the same time. And if they all get on the road, let's say at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning or early morning, to beat the winds by 3 o'clock, I'm afraid it's going to turn into another Opal. There's going to be a lot of people stacked up on the roads, and it's going to be slow moving. I would really like to have, for those people that wanted to go ahead and move today, is to go ahead and start, if they want to go ahead and choose to get on out today, go ahead. And they might be doing that on their own, they might not.
Well, I think like Mark, I think this board needs to make a decision, because I think a lot of folks are waiting for this board to make the decision. So, I think if we can clarify a time frame and an action, it makes it clear. So if that's what you're recommending, then I think we should move. Sheriff, do you have any comments regarding that?
Mr. Chairman, coming down this morning, it was above normal. The fifth wheelers and large boats going north through Hitchcock, so it's apparently we are having people go ahead and take an early warning on this and move.
We have seen people moving out already on their own. I want people to understand about the stump hole and about the Indian Pass area, and then after that, leave it up to them on whether they want to go ahead and move on out.
Jennifer, do we have any numbers from realtors or anything on the folks here as far as non-residents that are visiting?
No, they're more prepping for next weekend.
Yeah.
But there's less occupancy right now.
I don't.
Voluntary. I think with this sweep to the west, I think you're correct. All right, so what are the wishes of the board?
I think that we ought to, the non-residents, I think we should make that recommendation either at 7 in the morning or this afternoon, and let them go ahead and start that process. Or are you recommending immediately for non-residents?
I just recommend immediately, like I said, with the caveat of the stump hole and Indian Pass, knowing the dangers that are there, and make it voluntary. And then they can choose, whether they want to go ahead and leave today or whether they want to leave in the morning.
So moved.
But realizing, too, the tropical storm force winds should be arriving sometime around mid-afternoon tomorrow.
All right, we have a motion, Commissioner Yeager.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Another thing is opening shelters. Normally when we do any type of evacuation, if we're going to ask them to evacuate, then we need to provide a place for them to go. And I have Red Cross is on standby to open Honeyville Shelter. And another issue with sheltering is we have about 10 people with special needs. Our special needs shelter is in Jackson County, and right now they're not planning on opening that until Monday after school, which is really too late for us to put the high-profile vehicles on the road to transport those people up to Jackson County. And so been talking with Marcia, Department of Health, and we've been working this issue now for a couple of days. And one thing that she come up with is the possibility of actually taking and putting them into the Honeyville shelter. Most of these people require electricity. They can't go into a place unless it has a backup generator. And Honeyville doesn't have a backup generator. Looking at the amount of people that's going to be evacuating and the amount of people that's going to be going to a shelter, it's probably not going to be full. And we can actually take one in and set up a special need area and go ahead and cordon that off. And Department of Health will bring in their nurses, and they
I was going to say, we're going to have medical staff?
Yeah,
Okay.
medical staff will be there to take care of those people. And we just go ahead and do everything in-house.
If I could pause for a second. Ron, can you come up for just a second? Has your organization made a decision or where you're going with an evacuation standpoint in regards to us? And because obviously that's the same senior and medically complex patients that we're dealing with. Different issue. I'm just curious of what you guys have from your organization standpoint.
Sure. We do, our evacuation site is to the state hospital, and I have been talking with Jim McKnight in case that we do have to evacuate. That is the plan. I do have some people from the home office from Louisville coming down, and they're going to help me with in terms of support, but we're just going to be basing it on, you know, what you guys determine in terms of the zone that we're in, and then go from there.
That may not be a bad idea to contact Jim too, if that's their state emergency management plan. With with the 10 we have, that will work if Marcia does a triage and feels like that's an appropriate site. But they'll have a lot more medical operations, crash carts, and everything else if they need it from the standpoint. I just don't want to get in there where we may have something more than we have. Can you just communicate? I know you're waiting on our decisions, but also communicate with Marshall on sort of that, and y'all could get with Jim and see that, and Marshall can triage those folks.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
One question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr.
Martha, when would you project opening up that storm shelter?
Well, normally when we go ahead and call for an evacuation, we try to open it. But if we call for an immediate evacuation, what I foresee is the people that will be moving today will be non-residents. So we could go ahead and open that shelter first thing in the morning. And
7 o'clock, 6 o'clock,
7
5
o'clock in the morning, and have a place for the residents to go, and then keep it open until probably Wednesday.
And we will have nursing there.
Absolutely. And one thing with the nursing home, as you well know, it's just quite a major undertaking to move. Really, with the nursing home, one of their biggest problems is storm surge. The building is a well-built building. Wind is not a big issue, especially when you're talking about tropical storm. Storm surge is. And right now, storm surge is not going to affect them. I've been talking to Ron, and I think for the most part, they're in good shape to stay where they're at. And they might change their mind, things might change, but and if I'm right, it's pretty much they're in good shape.
Okay.
So.
I see some representatives from the hospital. You want to make a comment where the hospital is, if you don't mind, please?
Yes, we'd like to make a comment.
I'm sorry. Can you say, no, Marshall speak, I should have done it to Ron too, but can you state your name, please, and who you're with, so for the record?
My name's
Sorry.
Paulina Pendarvis, and I'm with Sacred Heart Hospital. And we would like to make a statement since we've not had this event since the hospital's been established. Sacred Heart will evacuate patients in the event of a major hurricane. If the storm continues as predicted, the hospital will remain open, but elective procedures may be canceled. In the event of a Category 3 or stronger hurricane, Sacred Heart Hospital in the Gulf has partnered with Flowers Hospital in Dothan, Alabama, to transport patients to safety. Due to the hospital's close proximity to the Gulf of Mexico, it is in the best interest of our patients, the community, and the hospital to evacuate all patients in advance of a powerful hurricane. Our primary focus during the evacuation is to transport our patients inland in order to receive uninterrupted, high-quality health care, while providing emergency services both before and directly following the storm. Sacred Heart encourages those who need medical supplies, such as oxygen, to seek supplies well in advance. The hospital will not refill or provide services for oxygen outside the facility during the storm. Members of the public should also know and be aware that Sacred Heart is not in a shelter. The emergency department will remain open after hospitalized patients are evacuated as long as it's logistically possible to do so. The emergency department staff will work directly with county MS during the storm and will reopen to the general public as soon as possible. Any questions, gentlemen?
That's good, thank you.
One question.
Yes.
Your transportation, have you arranged that?
Well, we have not arranged the transportation. Our plan has always been to use the EMS system in this county if we can. If we can't, we can call on Bay County or, what other county?
We got Bay County, South Walton if needed, and then Lifeguard also.
I think that's an important question. Houston, if you guys could coordinate, we're not anticipating, but, I mean, we've seen some storms do crazy things, but if you could talk about, because we work with Superintendent Norton and others on transport, but yours are certainly more medically complex, and having the EMS for fights, et cetera, so could you work with them, make sure that we're prepared on that standpoint? I'll get to Bay in a little bit. I've had some communications with Chief Bowen that we go through, but we appreciate you ladies coming in.
Thank you.
Let's go to the Superintendent of Schools, Superintendent Norton. Can you come up? And I know y'all are having a board meeting, I think, today. Can you give us an overview from what you need from us or where the school board is?
Mr. Chairman, we're prepared to offer any resource that you all may need. I haven't had a chance to speak to Marshall before this meeting started, and kind of knowing some of the voluntary evacuations that go on, I think we've pretty much made a determination from a district level standpoint that we'll plan on meeting in the morning, regular school, close at noon. That'll certainly allow us to, err on the side of caution as far as the children of Gulf County that go to the schools. Certainly, if any other contingencies need to be made that would accommodate, whether it's the nursing home, the hospital, or any other need the county may have, the buses will be freed up. Pretty much, if we go a full day, it's pretty much a 2-hour turnaround for our buses to go out, do their job, and come back. So I'd put it after 5 o'clock tomorrow if we go the regular day. If we let out at noon tomorrow, our buses are free, basically from 2 o'clock on, just in case of the contingency. I think one of the things Marshall said to me earlier, from our standpoint, sometimes we certainly don't want to confuse and joke about a Cat 5 hurricane, but, it's easy to make a decision when you have a Cat 5 hurricane staring you in the face. It's not quite as easy for us all to make these decisions, when we're still barely on the cusp of the fact that it may or may not affect us and to what it is. But I think our job at the end of the day is to err on the side of caution. Mr. Carl Obar said an interesting statement. Even if we send the kids home after half a day, they get full credit for the day. If it's a beautiful day, they can do yard work, but certainly their families have time to make contingency plans as necessary. And, any decision for Tuesday, we will make tomorrow. Okay. So that's where we are.
If you could, Jennifer is handling all of our information and public relations. She'll get that to the media and assist you with getting that information. I know you guys do that, but we'll put that with our websites and media links as well for midnight. Based on what Marshall was speaking of, I think that's a great call because of the winds coming in earlier than what we thought they were coming in. Is there anything else, Mr. Superintendent?
Just let me make sure I restate what we just said, and I'll get with our school board. Certainly our district staff, principals, and key personnel are meeting at 4:30 this afternoon. Dwayne McFarland maintains pretty much constant contact with the DOE folks who are trying to coordinate for all of us in the state of Florida from the education standpoint. They want a decision by 5 o'clock today with what we're going to do. So as of tomorrow, with the approval, contingent approval of our board, which I'm sure in this matter, we will plan on meeting for school at its regular time. We will plan on early dismissal at noon, and any decision regarding Tuesday or the rest of the week can be made tomorrow, and we'll certainly convey that information to you as we decide it, or as you may advise us we need to do.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
sir.
you. Yes.
Let's move to public safety. Sheriff and the Chief, if y'all would come up, just give us an overview of what your thoughts are, anything that you need, or any concerns that we haven't addressed.
Pretty much I think everything's been addressed. We're planning on going full staff tomorrow afternoon at 7 o'clock at night. We'll bring in some extra people. We may bring a few on in the morning just in case things pick up, but right now that's where we're at. We've talked and everything together. They'll have their group out and our group out. The governor's called yesterday. I have his cell phone number if we need anything as far as which I
Keep
don't
that number
foresee-
around.
Yeah. Which I don't foresee anything happening. I think my biggest concern is the stump hole. I think we're gonna lose that one way or probably.
I hope not.
I hope not, but if that comes back that way, if they don't have any riprap up there, it's gonna be tough to hold it.
Yeah. And let me speak to the stump hole. We're putting some riprap back in that particular section right now, and I think we'll get that covered in plenty of time. However, it's all depending on the track of this thing and what that surge is. So we all know that it's been vulnerable for a long time. So.
And our people, the fire department will be staffing the far side of it. The people that live out there know what it's all about. I'm really not concerned about them as long as we get the people off from the state park. The rest of them know how to take care of themselves out there.
I think our biggest headache is going to be trees down and power outages, with traffic lights and things of that nature, especially with people trying to get out of here if they don't get out of here early. That could create a major problem.
Absolutely. Anything else that you need? I will work with Oxley Public Works and with Progress Energy to make sure that we're addressing that. Thank you, gentlemen.
While we're talking about the stump hole real quick, and Marshall, we had done this back in '85. Opal washed through the stump hole, and we had a couple of contractors that were around here that had done work before. That we had that thing open back in about a day and a half. So I think we need to make sure that the contractors that are here locally that could help us with that, if that at the end of the day happens, that we could open that roadway as soon as we could. So,
Commissioner Yeager, I spoke with Chief Bowen yesterday with Bay County, and I know we both have Ashbrit as our contract debris removal corporation. We talked about, particularly yesterday, the reflection of the storms changed a little bit to the better, but we talked about maybe some dual staging and different resources that maybe go. And so I know Matt is going to be working with you in conjunction, and we'll coordinate with Bay County in resource. That's a good point. We've got some folks that we can utilize.
And I'll get with, back there in Opal, I think that was a county road.
Yes.
Cape San Blas Road, and at that time it's also a federal highway. It's on the federal highway list, but we were able to pre-position contractors and go in and put a temporary road bed back in there to move people in and out, and we were able to do that under FEMA dollars, and the permanent restoration was done under the federal highway group. And now it's a state road, and so what I'll do is I'll contact DOT and see if they have a problem, if either they pre-position or if we can pre-position contractors in case it does blow through.
And in that conversation, Marshall, I know that on Highway 22 there is a mountain of milled asphalt up there. So if we can talk to DOT about that, if we can utilize some of that if need be, that would be great.
Donnie, I know Donnie's here with Transfit and was excellent working with Don yesterday. Donnie, do you have any comments? Is everything smooth on your end? Anything you need from us?
I think everything's fine right now.
I appreciate y'all offering the representing the debris and things that we need and coordinate with us. Thank you very much.
Donnie, do you have any comment on as far as working with DOT? Could we stage a contractor, or do we need to get DOT to stage a contractor? Do you have any insight on how that works?
DOT has contractors on hand, and it's the first is clear and removed, and then a fast track to get the road open.
If not debris removal, but actually
Right.
emergency repair of the stump hole at the place.
Right.
Okay.
I was run by DOT. They probably have it's deferred to them once it's torn up.
Right.
And then they probably have someone in line 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and put a mission request in for that and go ahead and start working it.
That'll be great. I think that's appropriate.
Thanks again, Donnie. Before I leave public safety, Marcia, where'd Marcia go? Do you have any comments or anything that we need to add? I appreciate you working with our special citizens and needs that they may have. Is there any other thing from the Department of Health?
No, sir. The only thing I would remind people, if you're trying to make a decision about whether or not you need to evacuate, a topic that's a frequent call after a storm is people didn't evacuate, they didn't anticipate not having power for an extended period of time, and their insulin, their medications that need to be refrigerated, are warming up. So that's just a critical decision point for people without power, that they have a plan for keeping their medications cold if they don't have power for 2 or 3 days after a storm. Otherwise, the floridadisaster.org that Marshall has referenced for the last 2 days, a really good site to go and get a checklist of things that you still this afternoon and tomorrow morning can make sure you have, or that you need to pack to take with you if you're going to evacuate.
You have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there's one question we need to answer. When we evacuate and open up the storm shelter, are we going to allow the pets to go?
I think if you don't, you're not going to have a lot of folks evacuate.
I just cleared the area. I'll support it 150%. If I go, my pet goes.
Well, the Honeyville shelter is not a pet-friendly designated shelter. That's not to say you can't allow them in there.
Thank you.
That's strictly up to the board. There are some things that we would like to put into place, a place to put them, feeding them. It's a perfect location as far as the owners can actually take care of the pets, but where are you going to put the pets while the owner's not with them?
And we're, I mean, I'm telling you, folks won't leave without their chihuahua, birds, cats, and all.
Absolutely.
But the issue is that needs to be well thought through. I would really, I know it's our call to make that, and I appreciate it. We probably need some legal review to make sure, but it's really more of a Department of Health. From a public safety standpoint, and I'm not putting a call on you, we'll make the call, but I need to make sure we can assure both, you know, the critters and the folks that we've done our homework, and I don't have, you know, it could just be a mess. Could y'all work at it a little bit, make us feel comfortable as best you can, is what I'm saying, that we've at least reviewed legally, structurally, operationally, who's going to take care. I mean, those are big issues if that happens.
I completely agree, Mr. Chair. When I worked in the Leon Emergency Operations Center, the people who were in trouble that called the ESF-8 desk had stayed home with their animals. And
well, I would much rather save somebody's life and move them to a storm shelter and bring the dog than go through it. But in the same token, we need to make sure that we're protecting the folks that are there as best we can as well.
that really begins to change the flavor of the decision about whether or not we're going to move forward with contemplating putting special needs patients up there. I will tell you that we have not given up on the Jackson County special needs shelter option yet. There's a lot of emails.
Marshall spoke to me this morning. I've got to call into their commissioners too. I'm trying to figure out, you know, what their feeling is. But if you will, just give us some kind of review so we can make some decisions on it. Jeremy, do you have anything on that?
Just to echo Marshall's comments about the 10 special needs. If you all as a commission decide to allow that and go ahead and permit it, just so there's special conditions set up so that you isolate those 10 special needs. You all move as a commission, but I would like for you to give us the instructions so at least we have 24 hours we can go out, find out if there's appropriate place in Honeyville in terms of isolating and quarantining those animals separate and apart from any evacuees.
I agree with that.
But that will give us the opportunity over the next 24 hours to figure that out so we can tell Marshall whether or not there's 10.
Okay, why don't we do this? The special needs folks that we're talking about accommodating first and foremost, that's going to be different. Hopefully they may or may not have animals, but we're not talking about a mass amount of folks if we got to. So let's deal with that first, make recommendations as council is indicating, and let's do our homework there, and then we'll come back and meet again.
Okay.
Mr. Lee, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I think this is simple, you know, really and truly. Just bring a kennel. Kennel your pet.
That helps.
Food. Yeah, bring your food and water. I mean, it's no big deal. We all take care of pets.
I think the problem is they need to be separated from, they need to be outside that building and separated from the other residents in there.
Yeah, that's
especially the special needs. But there could be options if we could get a tractor trailer rig in there or some type of something to put them in and take them. You could just leave them outside. They could go outside, walk them around, feed them. They still have to be in a kennel, but if they were in some type of a trailer in out of the weather and outside, then that would probably work.
I think we're trying to make it more complicated than
I just want to make the public safety right.
And I understand that. But this shouldn't be complicated at all.
Okay. And listen, I'm not the expert. Sandy in that area, the kenneling, but the handling, the process, and more importantly to me is the public safety standpoint, making sure that those people and those animals are separated by both law and by both public safety standards. That's all.
Clearly, there are public shelters that are pet-friendly shelters. So from a public safety standpoint, that's doable. It changes completely if you're putting special needs patients over there. So we'll sort that out first and then talk with Red Cross and get back with you.
Okay.
There are pet-friendly shelters in Bay County.
I mean, Marcia's bringing up a great point with our special needs folks versus regular folks. They're dealing with the medical needs and, different medicines. Just advise us and we'll move on.
Okay.
Do you have a question, sir?
Yes, we don't want to go to Bay County, have to go all the way to Bay County when we have a storm shelter right here.
I think we can work with it. We just need to make sure we do some homework, that's all. Let's move to the municipalities. Representatives, I saw several commissioners from the city. I know I think Mr. Minshew's here. Is there anything from the cities? Either one? No?
I'll just come up and say, the city is prepared to do whatever we need to do. Y'all give us the word of what you need us to help with, and we'll certainly be glad to do it. And I'm concerned about the sandbags as far as the city, Jim. Do we have a place to pick up sandbags for the residents? I've already been asked today about that.
Don't get off that easy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, Mr. Butler, Public Works of the county has some available with, I think we're trying to bring some people in today to try to look at that. We also have some available over at the city side. The city and the counties work jointly together with that throughout the year. We'll have a full staff in the morning, so if you need sandbags, we can have our staff help you out with that. That's not a problem, Mr. Butler. If you need help on your side, let us know, but we have staff available.
I know you were going to speak with the warden. Are they going to run crews tomorrow so they can help us as well?
No, I'm not aware of that now.
If I may here, I spoke with the warden yesterday along with Mr. Danford here. He can probably give us a better update on where we're at. We were going to simply utilize their personnel, but you have to go through a lot of rigorous channels.
We're currently filling sandbags out at the Gulf Forestry Camp. The forestry camp is going to be evacuated tomorrow, but I spoke with the warden. We put it in EM Constellation as a request. It went through, and we're currently filling sandbags out there now. Right about now, we got about 600-700. We're going to be pulling those back in, so we'll have them at the shop.
And that's where you want the main distribution for folks to come and request them. And we'll help all we can, but if they come and pick sandbags up, come to the shop.
Come to the shop. And also, we are going to be dropping some off at fire departments and a few other places.
Yes.
And health departments, things like that.
After today, we cannot utilize the inmate service tomorrow.
They're going to be evacuated from there, probably to the main camp, and don't know what will happen from there.
Yep. Thank you.
It's just been a great resource.
We're going to get as
Thank
many
you.
as we can today.
We'll work with you, Bo, and whatever y'all need, just let us know.
Just on anything, just if you need,
Hold on one second. He's got a question.
One important thing, I've done this for years, and I'm no expert at it, but the people need to be aware. If you do not have this clean, those sandbags are useless. You have to put those plastic down and those sandbags correctly, then it will work. But just going out there and throwing sandbags up against the wall, it's not going to work. I've done it for years, fellas.
That's a very good point.
If we can get the public to go and get you some Visqueen, it'll make a lot of difference.
Jennifer, I know you had an interesting request, but why don't you get with Carmen? Let's just do a 1, 2, 3, 4. Because a lot of folks that have moved here have probably never done that. There's some steps that they need to take for appropriate sandbag, because he's absolutely right.
8 ply. Yes, go ahead.
One more interruption,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. We're here. Whatever you need us to do, you just let us know.
No, we appreciate the city being here. Mr. Minshew, anything from the city we will hit you? Okay, let's go. Let's go to our Public Works and Road Department and Building Department. Anything that you guys need operationally, things moving?
We're moving right along.
You're good. All right.
We're good.
I see the forestry camp. Anything that the folks from forestry need to update us on? Anything we can do for you all?
Not at this time. We'll just look at requests from y'all if anything's needed.
Okay. Let's move to Mr. Butler then. Mr. Butler, you want to take us into the final run here, and we'll just give an update of anything you see we need to do?
Just comment. Yesterday, we were talking about sandbags and water, aerial spraying, and just so we're all on the same page. If the board will allow us staff to handle it as we best see fit,
They'll spray in, they want like $1.92 per acre and a minimum 40,000 acres. We on the hook for like $75,000, $80,000. So there's time, it's the timing thing. At some point in time, we very well may be able to get that and only pay a percentage of that money. But it will allow us to not go out and buy $25,000 of water. There'll be a time we may have to get it. We may not have to get it at all. But if you let us do that, we'll handle it.
Absolutely. You need a motion to that effect, or just, okay. All right, we'll move to the public. Any questions, any comments, concerns? Come on up. If you will, just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Denise Strickland. I work for Sunset Reflections Vacation Rentals. I just wanted to make a comment about the voluntary evacuation of our non-residents. Our people in our rental homes are a little bit different than just overnight guests. We are now, most of the rental agencies in Cape San Blas offer travel insurance to our visitors now. If the visitors leave voluntarily, they cannot get their money back. But if you issue a mandatory evacuation, they can get a refund from the travel insurance company. My concern is if you say that that emergency services may not reach them if they don't leave, you know, I don't see any reason for the visitors to voluntarily leave and lose their money. So I don't think that they're just going to leave.
That's a very good point.
I mean,
do you have a comment on that?
Several places here also that may have something different to say, but you know, that's just my personal view, is that they're not going to have any motivation to leave, and then we're going to get 50,000 phone calls, you know.
Well, it's a perplexing component. I mean, on the logistics side, when we say mandatory, I mean, we want folks to realize the impending scenario that we're telling them. There is a financial consequence to that we're trying to balance both for the homeowner and for that visitor. We don't want to cause an undue hardship. I don't want to get our priorities of public safety confused with the financial components of what we need to do. So, I mean, we need to consider that. But, Jennifer, do you have a comment regarding TDC's perspective?
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying. It's just what caught my attention was when you
it's
said
a big deal.
services may not be able to reach them. You know, if you say you can voluntarily leave and then they don't leave and then we can't provide service to them, then that's going to be tough.
You're right. Good. Can you come to the podium?
I absolutely agree with that. This is a problem because of the voluntary versus mandatory, and also people have been calling and asking in preparation for not only right now but for next weekend, because they're taking out some big insurance policies for next weekend as well. So it's just how we all want to handle this because of the fact of safety versus the financial aspect of the insurances.
Wishes of the board?
Yeah, I think about being chairman. I guess hear you. Yeah, this is a tough situation. I hate to ever say mandatory. I understand, and I hadn't even thought about the situation where folks have bought insurance on their vacation. However, I just think we're so early in the game still too to say it mandatory even today for the non-residents.
Is there? Let me ask you. That's a good question. Is there? I don't understand that industry component of the insurance, but is there a timing component? Is it at any point they call it mandatory? Like, let's say tomorrow, the storm has changed dramatically over the last 24 hours. It could do it again tomorrow, and I think where Mr. Yeager is leading to is I don't want to push a button on public safety to do it, but tomorrow, etc. I guess, is there a timing window, like we make decisions tomorrow or through the whole event, or no, it has to be 24 hours before you cancel, or?
I think it depends on the policy of how what your policies is, different timing and different, whether it's wind or storm surge, or there's different categories of the policy.
The policy basically, I mean, if you say mandatory right now, if they have to leave right this minute, they're going to be reimbursed for whatever.
Right.
You know, once you lift the mandatory, then they're not. If you issue a mandatory evacuation today and then you lift it tomorrow, they'll get reimbursement today, but then tomorrow they have to be back because they won't get reimbursement anymore.
Right.
But if you wait till tomorrow, they'll still, if they have to leave tomorrow mandatorily, that it's just the same. I mean, it's just whatever time frame that mandatory evacuation is at play.
Well, my suggestion to the board, Denise brings up a great point, but I still think we have to make the decision based under the logistics and the public safety demand, but we should be sensitive to that as well as we go through. And I would rather defer that to a meeting tomorrow. Steve, you want to come up and address it?
Denise makes a real good point. The larger rental management companies do have rental insurance that they offer. Many of the smaller rental management companies like ourselves that have 2 and 3 houses don't offer that, haven't been able to get it, and our people currently staying here do not have trip insurance, and they'd be looking to us to refund their full amount. It'd be a extreme hardship right now, especially with this changing storm that we have. I think we'd be hitting the button too soon. It would cause us a huge financial hardship
Here's what
for
I
a
think.
tropical storm.
Here's what I think at the end of the day. It's too early to say a mandatory evacuation. It's just absolutely too early. I don't have a problem with meeting tomorrow again and reassess that. And if need be, let's institute the mandatory at that point. But it's too early for me to call a mandatory evacuation.
I agree, and I mean, what Denise has brought up, I think we should be sympathetic. It's a mitigating factor, but I think the goal of this board, or the responsibility of this board, is absolutely public safety first, then the logistics as we go through. But Denise, that's something that we can study and work on, and then I'm sure we're probably going to have a meeting tomorrow so we can readdress it.
Well, I wasn't necessarily asking for it today. I was just wanting you to be aware that
Well, you did good. You confused us. That was very good.
that was my intention.
Okay. All right. All right, yeah, we'll just defer that till tomorrow. Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir, come on up.
Historically, whenever we have a significant weather event, we draw in surfers from South Carolina and Georgia. And what we'd like to know is that as it starts to deteriorate, the conditions on the beach, we want everybody to realize that we're not going to put our people in danger to go help them. I do not know if you can close the beach. We tried doing it one time during the shark attack when the young man lost his leg, and it really didn't work out too well. But it's something that we have to think about. And that's it.
Well, I think we can send out that notice that we're not putting our emergency personnel for their high-risk decision. But in that same token, it's going to be very hard not to respond. But I don't think we can close the beaches under those circumstances.
No, I think you've just made the statement.
Right.
We're not going to respond and put our people in safety as we would never.
Thank you.
Mark, can you come up? It's being recorded and folks can't hear you. I'm sorry.
If the county happened to put their beach under the flag system, if you're flying a double red flag, it does make it a criminal offense to enter the water.
But we're not there yet because we don't have the protocol and the resolutions and policy. We've been considering that. There's been some dialogue, but we would have to have public hearings and things. So I think it's something we need to look at, but we don't have that set up yet.
I had one question about other campgrounds. I know we got the mandatory order to evacuate our overnight guests. Will other campgrounds be affected?
No, this action of this board today was specifically to you, because your protocol is very different. At this point, we've not called it mandatory. We'll address that tomorrow. Just you. Yes, ma'am.
I got 2.
Okay. Come on. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure, Jerry Ashcraft, 1610 Monument Avenue, and I own Gulf Coast Vacation Rentals. Maybe I misunderstood, but I thought earlier Marshall called for mandatory evacuation north of the stunt pole. No, that's not, so I'll write that down in my
No,
notes.
it's voluntary on some of the lower lying areas, and then we're going to reassess it. The only thing mandatory at this point is the state park.
So you want us to tell them that if that stunt pole goes out, we might not be able to get to them, but it's voluntary that they leave. And Indian Pass.
So, yeah.
Because this happened to us during Opal, and I was working for a different company. When you're taking on a liability, with telling them they don't have to leave. So I just wanted to make sure.
Superintendent Norton had a very good comment. I mean, when we've got a 4 or 5 looking at us, it's a clear clutch, very clear. What we don't want to do, we want people, and and I'm not saying this is from a symbolic standpoint, we want to try to make the best calls we can so that it's the appropriate response. People get very, very frustrated. Then we start calling for a mandatory and they won't leave because they did it last time and we put a lot of people in harm's way. So we're really trying to move more patiently and watch the storm. So we'll come back tomorrow and meet again.
Our main concern is just north of the Stop Pole and Indian Pass, because just with a tropical storm recently, we had trouble getting people off of Indian Pass.
Yes, ma'am.
So the Stop Pole and Indian Pass is our main concern. So if it worsens tomorrow, if the Stop Pole goes out, I would ask that you reconsider that.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's necessary right now, but and most of our people, I don't know about you, Denise, but they're down there in Barrier Dunes and Sea Cliffs and on that north end of the Cape. So.
Yes, ma'am. We'll certainly take that under advisement. Sandy, you had a comment? Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sandy Christie, board member of the Humane Society. As I mentioned yesterday, we're going to evacuate early tomorrow morning 70 animals from our shelter. They'll be going to Gainesville, Georgia and Bonifay, and we'll bring them back when we know that the water's receded and we have the work crews back to help us take care of the facility and the animals. Hopefully, if we don't get sand in place before then, we desperately need sand for the yards surrounding the entire Humane Society because we're functioning in a swamp right now. That would be great if any of the commissioners could help us with that issue. And I thank Carmen McLemore, Commissioner McLemore, for your help with that the other day. So we probably need 10 more loads of sand to get us back up where we need to be.
And I think with the city and the county, with the direction tomorrow, we'll be at full force. We've mobilized a lot of people over the weekend, but be at full force tomorrow. I think we can knock a lot of things out, and we'll defer over to Don and to see if they've got the resources to send that over to you.
If not before or after would be great. We just have, we've got a big problem over there.
Amen.
Secondly, the Board of the Humane Society would encourage the Board of County Commissioners to seriously consider making the Honeyville shelter open for citizens with pets. If you're not able to accomplish it for this storm, we would be happy to appoint some of our board members to work with some county people to enable that in the future so that our shelter in Honeyville could be a pet-friendly shelter.
Absolutely.
As we know, people either don't leave home or they leave or abandon their pets during a storm because they have nowhere to take them. We appreciate your help.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? All right, motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Oh, no. Right here.
Hold on. Before we adjourn, I got a motion. I'll hold the motion.
Quick question.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Ray Lafarouse. I live at 323 Ponce de Leon at St. Joe Beach. And I would like to know at what point they close the bridges.
From my understanding, Sheriff, that's the only time 55-mile-an-hour wind, 60.
We close bridges when we can't stand out there.
Okay.
Bridges have never been closed. We will, if it gets to that point, you have gusts, non-gusts, we'll be there to let people go. When it comes time to close the bridges, we won't be standing out there until
We'll let you aware, in all seriousness, that's a very tough call. I mean, it could be a little guy, could be a big guy.
Well,
the scenario that we're saying is we'll notify you through these meetings and through our public information if we're anticipating or we have closed those bridges.
I don't anticipate it.
But
I know they said the Hathaway is 55 and there was another bridge further in Walton County that's 45, so I guess.
the sheriff will ultimately make that decision on the public safety right-of-ways, but we'll notify you as a board. So through our contacts with emergency operations that we sent out yesterday and/or through the media releases, you'll know those moving parts. We'll let you know if those bridges are going to be closed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, also, instead of adjourning, can we recess until tomorrow instead of reconvening and re-advertising another meeting and all that? And Mr. Attorney,
You fine with that? Yeah, and the notice right now, if you would just set the time, obviously advertise.
What time of night will work best from the prep, from the prepping that you'll get from the state and the feds? What time do you want us to have it tomorrow?
Well, no, what we're doing now is we're coming out with new advisories every 3 hours. So we'll have a 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 11 o'clock advisory. We do have 11:15 conference call with the state, and we got a 2:30 conference call with National Weather Service. So really, I think probably sooner than later.
You want to do 9 o'clock?
That's fine.
All right, so let's set or just to continue this meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning so we don't have to re-advertise. Let me make one other comment for the board's discussion. We have a county commissioner meeting Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, which will be just in the throes, obviously, of where we think we're going to be. My recommendation is that we cancel that meeting entirely next week until we know recovery process and damage impacts, and then we can reschedule with Mr. Butler. Y'all okay with that?
We're fine with that.
I need a motion to cancel that until determined from storm recovery.
So move.
Okay, we got a motion, Commissioner Smiley.
Second.
Second, Commissioner McDaniel. All in favor? Aye. All right.
One thing, Mr.
I'd say let's wait till tomorrow in the courthouse and talk with the constitutional officers.
Mr. Chairman, we also need to clarify the cancellation of the 5 o'clock meeting as well.
Yes, we have a special meeting at 5. I need a motion to cancel that as well. Motion, Mr. McLemore.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0. All right, now, anything else?
Yeah, one other thing. Mr. Chairman, if I may, to the people, two things keep in mind, and one thing about the good people of Gulf County, you can always count on them. But just 2 words, common sense, and don't create issues, because we're going to have enough issues to deal with. But just use good old common sense, and that'll get us 99% through this. But that's all.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone coming up. Adjourn.
Yeah, that's good.